All right, everybody. So today we're going to be looking at the Sophas or Sophas. I'm not sure how you want to pronounce that. Either way, it's the application service for public health programs. And most of your public health programs will probably be using this application service. There could be one here or there that does not, that they kind of do their own thing. You're probably going to see that more often with private schools or special schools that have specialties and things like that. But on the whole, this is a good application to know. By the way, if you're applying to anything else, it's probably going to use the very similar system because most of these application services are all built off of the program called Liaison. And so once you know one, you pretty much know them all, which is kind of handy. In fact, if you apply to the UC system, I think the Cal application is a liaison application. So you probably have some familiarity with how this works anyway. So we're going to focus in on some of the things that make this unique and special. So we're going to walk through the application. So I'm going to start right from the beginning here. We're going to click on apply. And you see, again, liaison, look at that. And I've already created my account. You would end up wanting to create an account, which is just basically entering your username, password a couple times, some relevant information like an email address and all that, so you can create an account. So I'm just going to go ahead and sign in. And this is the first thing you're going to be faced with is this, thank you for your interest. I plan to start my program when? So I'm planning to start my program, let's say winter of 2022. No, actually, wait, fall of 2022. So that would be starting, if I'm finishing school right now and I finish in the spring, that would be one more year in addition to it. So I'd be applying with one gap year. So that's something you want to think about is like how you work your gap years. That's not really relevant to the application, but there we go. So continue. So then you've got this wonderful bland looking application so far. We're just going to start here in the top left and work our way through the personal information, academic history, supporting information, program materials. So personal information is what you'd expect. You get your release statement. This is basically saying, I agree to all the terms. And much like signing a lease, you pretty much have to agree to it. So just hit yes, I agree. So do be sure to read it. I'm not saying not to read it, but you're going to have to agree to it to apply. So there's that. Then of course, your information. I don't have a pseudonym. I don't have a preferred name. You can put your sex and gender identity, your pronouns, all this wonderful information, including where you live. This is birth information. This is not where you're currently living. So this is to verify that you're a citizen pretty much. They'll do that later on as well. So if I go into contact information, this is where you're going to put your address where you live. Now, here's where some things can be a little iffy when you're talking about residency. Think about what residence you want if you're not native, if you're living somewhere different than you're applying. You want to make sure you understand how the residency things work. If you have a permanent California resident, you'll probably be a resident in California. If you have a permanent resident in another state where you've like registered your car, got a driver's license, you're a resident of that state most likely. So think about how that plays out as well. But this is good old normal information that you would expect to have, including email. So nothing a big surprise as we see here. Here's where we get the confirming of the citizen information. They're going to ask you specific questions about whether you're a citizen, what state you're a legal resident of, whether you have a visa, and if you have a visa, how long you're going to be here in the US. So that's, again, predictable, not too hard to figure out. Family info, you do not have to add family information here. This is really, if you want to, like, suppose make a case that you're a disadvantaged student, it might be helpful to put something in here about a parent or a guardian. So they understand that if the parents are disadvantaged, you are too. So if you do add one, you have several choices, mother, father, all that fun stuff. And what they do, the occupation can help understand what the disadvantage might be. And as well as if you're first generation, you're trying to prove that, it'd be helpful to go ahead and enter that, okay, this person didn't go to college, they just had a high school graduate situation. So that's up to you to decide how you put that together in your application. But generally speaking, it's there for if you want to prove a disadvantaged situation. Race, ethnicity, all of these questions are optional. You do not have to answer them. And then other info is just what languages you might speak, whether you've had committed crimes in the past or been accused of cheating or things like that. My rule of thumb on this is if you have been convicted of something or have had some kind of academic infraction, just be honest about it, because it's not really going to be held against you. What could be held against you is they might, if they find out after you said no, you haven't had one, then that's a problem. That's where it becomes an issue. So just be honest, because at some point it will eventually come out. And then background info, etc. This is where you put your Social Security if you want it in there. This is handy for financial forms and stuff. You don't have to put it in the application. You can put that in later. First generation. So this is where you're starting to establish if you're disadvantaged or not. And then how did you figure out you wanted to do public health? So this is all general. And then of course the COVID question. So they want to know about what your schools did during COVID, and everybody's going to have one of those lately, and how COVID has impacted your pathway to this program. With the COVID statement like this, the impact statement, try to keep it positive. I know that COVID might have caused you not to get as much experience as you might have wanted, or things maybe academically got wonky because you went to online classes all of a sudden in like a month. Those types of things, but turn it around and just say like, oh, well, even though those things happened, I did have the opportunity to do this, or this became something I could do instead, or whatever it is. Turn it on its head. Make a bad thing into a good thing, because the more positive you keep your application, the better it's going to come across. So that is just the other information, or the sort of personal information section. Any questions on that specifically?
Nope.
All righty, let's move on to the next part. Academic history. This is the fun one. So they're going to ask you what high schools you attended. So you add your high school. I'm going to put mine in here. I went to St. Joseph High School in St. Joseph, Michigan, and all that fun stuff. And it's just, you're just entering in the school. Nothing special there. They're not going to ask you any deep, dark questions about the school you went to. Colleges attended, this is a bigger deal. So let's say I went to Central Michigan. Now notice how these populate, because now they want to know the exact school you went to. So I went to Central Michigan University. Did I attain? Yes, I did. I'm going to put my degree that I got, and so on and so forth. So I got a Bachelor's of Science. And look at all these different options. Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Science. And then I can select my major, which was chemistry. And what month, I'm going to show my age here. I earned it in August of, yeah, I'm going that far, 1995. So it's been a while. And then if you did double major, that stuff. What term? There was a semester school. Am I still attending? No. When did you first attend? And I can put all that stuff in here. So I'm going to actually do this because it's going to be relevant and necessary, so I can show you how to put your transcripts in. So fall of, that was September 1991 I started. Yeesh, that's been a while. And I finished that spring, May 1995, not 85. So save. So I'm putting that in. Once you put, yes, go ahead.
Up at the part where you're putting your major and your minor, is there a spot to do a double minor?
There is not. But honestly, minors don't really make a hoot of difference. So I would just pick the one that you feel is your primary minor.
Okay.
Yeah. Majors don't really what your major is and what your minor is aren't really going to affect how they consider you as an applicant. So you kind of have some liberties at that point. Good question. Now, this is where we have to add our transcript. So we need a transcript. So it's saying the official transcript not yet received. So I'm going to order my transcript. Working through Davis uses credential solutions. So you need to use for the electronic transcripts. You could do a mail transcript, but electronic's just going to be easier. To get the code you need, you just click on Credential Solutions, get the transcript ID number, so copy that, and then you would go to the registrar's office here to request your official transcript. So order an official transcript, go into My UC Davis, and then request your transcript, which I don't think I can show you because I do not have a transcript on record because I didn't go to school here. Oh yeah, I can, let's see what happens if I go like order an official transcript. There we go. And we're gonna order a PDF transcript. Student ID, put all that fun stuff in here. And then at some point, it's gonna ask us for that code that we got off of Sophas over here. This one. So wherever it asks you for that code, that like you enter that code in there and you're going to be able to get your transcript directly sent to your Sophas application. You don't have to do anything fancy, all that fun stuff. So that's how you do it. There's a little bit more to it than that I can't show you directly just because I don't have an actual transcript, but it should be pretty self-explanatory when you know here's where you get your credential transcript ID number and here's where you go to get your transcript. Does that make sense? Okay, and I notice your hand is up, but is that from the previous question?
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
thanks.
Cool. So, and once you've done it, you can say, I ordered my transcript, and it'll say, when the transcript arrives, it'll show up in this box and say it has been received and it has been processed. So when you're doing this, you're not really ordering it here, you're just saying that it's ordered. Then you got to go to your school to get the rest of the transcripts. I would also order an official copy for yourself. Actually, some paper copies honestly isn't a bad idea too after you graduate, because at some point in the future, you never know, you may actually need your transcript. Like for example, I needed my transcript like a few years back. I can't remember what I needed it for, but I had to order a copy from 1995 and I couldn't find it. It was like really hard. So just letting you know. The reason you want an official transcript is because of the transcript entry portion. Now, they're going to offer you this transcript entry. You can either do it yourself or pay somebody to do it for you. And you can see how $69 for up to 3 transcripts, that can be a little expensive. For most people, they can figure it out. I've never once run into a person that needs the transcript entry. So once you go into transcript entry, we're going to go into here to Central Michigan. And I'm going to add semester by semester what I have. And the worst part about this is just tedious. But I want to say you need to be working from your official transcript. So you need to make sure that everything that you're entering here came off your official transcript. So maybe my first term was, what did I say? It was fall of 1991. Notice my years are limited because of how I said it. Academic status was a freshman at that point. Completion status was that quarter was completed. And then I'm going to save that. And then I can edit it and add in individual courses for it. So I'm going to add a course. And let's say on my transcript, it said I had CHE 101. That's what it was for me. And then the course title was General Chemistry 1. And I'm getting this straight off my transcript, except my transcript said this. General Chem 1, because that's what it said on the transcript. Whatever the transcript says, that's what you put on there. Even though the title of the class elsewhere is General Chemistry 1, or whatever it is, the transcript, it must match that identically. And then we know this as a subject is chemistry. And it was a 5-unit class, and I got an A- in it. So this last box, the CAS grade, you can't enter anything into it. It's automatically calculated for you. So if you were to put point grades in here, like if your report card transcript, not your report card, your transcript has point grades like 91%, then it'll automatically do the conversion for you. So you don't have to put that in there. This is what a 91, as far as Sophas says, is an A. So usually I think Davis uses letter grades. So there you go. Then add more courses or add additional semesters. The tricky part sometimes is deciding what subject it is. For seminars, just put like whatever works, because it's a pass, no pass kind of thing, and you don't have to enter it specifically. You can always put other health profession at that point, because you do have that option, but I don't believe that they have a seminar in here, because I looked for it and I couldn't find it. So yeah, they don't have a seminar option. So just use other, or at least the next closest thing for it. It's not as critical to match up like the subject for stuff that's pass, no pass, because it's not being contributed or calculated into your science or non-science GPAs.
When we're putting this in from our official transcript, is that why you need to, or you recommend ordering one for yourself, because there's no way for you to see it without your own official transcript, or would it be
Correct.
the same information as an unofficial transcript?
The unofficial may not match the official.
Okay.
One of the big differences has been fixed here at Davis, because in the past, like if you took a BIS class, on your unofficial it says BIS, on the official it said BIOLSCI, BioSci. However, they just fixed that problem, so now the official says the same thing as the unofficial. But there could be other little teeny tiny things that the official has in it, as far as like where it cuts things off, or how it, how it creates the course titles. It's better to have the official transcript in there so that there's no potential funkiness going on between the two.
Okay, sounds good.
And then if you went to more than one school, you would end up adding an additional school here to colleges attended. Oops, save my changes. I could go back and add an additional college, and I would have to submit a transcript and enter a transcript for every single school that I attended for college. And that also counts if you did high school community college credits. So like early college high schools, which I think is what California calls them, where you might take a community college class while you're still in high school. You have a community college transcript for that. So you need to get that transcript and enter those grades according to that transcript here as well. It will take all of those. Sometimes your community or your transcripts have AP courses on them. So if I'm adding a course and it's an AP course, generally speaking, they don't have AP options here. So, and they're probably lumped together. Like Davis will lump them together. So there you just call it whatever they give you, which is like, sometimes it's like ENLTR1 or something like that. You can still call it English, but it's only the stuff that's transferred in that really matters on that particular transcript. So AP credits, it's not super critical to make sure those match up, because honestly, only the ones that transferred in for credit matter, and they will be listed on there as a certain course code. So just use the course code that's on the transcript. Then standardized tests. This is not how you submit your standardized test score report through here. You were just saying which test you took and what the scores are for them. To submit an official score report for your GRE, you have to do that through ETS. So that's going through ets.org. You can either do it when you take the GRE before you take it, or you can do it afterwards. If you do it afterwards, it costs you an additional fee. Here, they're just asking you to report your score. When did you take the test and what it was and what the registration code was. They're just really just going to match it up with the score, the official score report you submit through ETS. So any questions about the academic history portion of this? I'm assuming that was no, because I don't think I heard a word, but I heard something happen. All right, supporting information. Recommendations. This is always one of those that's a little tricky. Notice how there's recommendation 1, 2, 3. That's because 3 are required for Sophas. You have 3 requested recommendations. You can also add in additional ones. I believe the limit is right here. You can have a maximum of 5. So you can add 2 additional ones. What this is the final ask, not your initial ask for a personal state, or sorry, a letter of recommendation, but your final. So you want to get this lined up before you even start your application, like, ask several months, like 5, 6 months before you actually need it. Just say initially, hey, would you be able to write me a letter of recommendation when the time comes? What this does, this will create an email going to the professor. I can't list myself as a reference. I gotta pick a fake name. Douglas Bob. That's my real name. No, just kidding. So can't use my own address. So I gotta use a different email address. Douglas.bob. There we go. So this is gonna say to them, it's gonna set up a link for them to submit their letter to the application directly. And you can put a due date on there. Keep in mind the due date does not have to be by the time you submit the application. You can set it up so that they send their letters in shortly after. Thing is, your application is just not going to move on into the process unless the letters are attached to it. So try to make sure it's close to the time you plan it on submitting. And if you give yourself lots of time, you can make sure that happens. And then tell them, please, blah, 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 write a letter. And I waive my rights. I would suggest you always pick yes. Otherwise, people look at it a little weird saying, like, why do you need to see your letter direct? Do you not trust this person? So that's why they're pretty much looking for you to say yes there. You don't have to. Allow them to contact the recommender, allow them to contact the school. And the schools to contact the recommender. You're gonna have to do that. And if I do this, if I hit save this recommendation request, it's gonna send me an email to douglas.bob@hotmail.com and say, so-and-so has requested a recommendation from you by this date. Please submit here. And I'll give them a link and they have to verify their identity and all that fun stuff. So this is a pretty simple process. You just gotta make sure that the people know it's coming, because I've seen this happen a lot where faculty don't know that this request is coming, so they disregard the email. So let them know they're going to get an email. It might go to their junk folder. This happens a lot. That's going to be the link for them to send in their letter. Next up, experiences. This is where you add in all those experiences that you've had, and there you can list them as several types. In this case, employment, research, or volunteer. Again, pick the thing that matches most closely. If you did an experience that was an employment that turned into a volunteer, or a volunteer that turned into employment, it could be either one. Just make sure you're representing like a little bit for each. And then you put in the organization, contact info for the supervisor. Notice how none of this is required, but I would still do it. Put in that supervisory information, because that way they know, like you may not know their current information, and that's okay, but at least you had somebody at that point. When you started, was it current? Like, are you doing it now? When it ended, if it wasn't, what your status is, what was it, full-time, part-time, etc. Give it a name. Again, address what kind it is. Estimate your hours. And if you haven't already started doing this, create yourself a spreadsheet where you have all these details in it and start putting this together like now. Because if you wait until you're starting to do your application, you're going to be sitting there going like, man, I forgot. How many hours did I do this? How many weeks did I do this? And it's just going to be, you're going to spend a lot of time wasting away just figuring this stuff out. So do it now before you have to think about it. Under description, key responsibilities, you get 600 characters. So what I would do here is like have one sentence be sort of like describe the process, or not the process, but the experience in terms of like what you did and what it is you were doing. Then try to do like an anecdote or something that illustrates what you took away from it, and then have a nice little takeaway. So like do half and half. Have like something be, here's what I learned, here's what I learned about myself, here's what I learned how to do, here's what I learned about myself from this experience. That just makes it shine a little bit more. It doesn't have to be grandiose or anything, but just I like to tell students, pick an adjective that you want this experience to illustrate about you, so that each one of them is a different adjective. So you can say, so like basically your different experiences represent something different about you. You don't want all the experiences to say the same exact thing about you. And then can you release it? Yes. Blah, blah, blah. I would just hit yes all the time for those and go on your merry little way. And so You can enter those. And then, of course, you may select 6 as your most important to highlight in your application PDF. Those are the ones that they're going to go right up to the top of the list. The other ones are going to be below that. Because the way this is going to look is just like it's a big, long, like 20-page PDF. And so you can elevate some of these things to the top of the list. So those are the first ones people see. Additional experiences, these are things just like other information about you that they want to know. Like here, they're being very specific. AmeriCorps, whether you're a Fulbright Scholar, Teacher America, that kind of stuff. So it's just very specific if you had some of those other things. Achievements, these are like awards or honors. And this would be something like the Dean's List or becoming a part of National Honor Society of some sort. That's what you can put here. The brief description, honestly, this is very difficult to like put together something that's more than maybe a sentence or two. Like if it's Dean's List, I don't know what you put in there. Like what are the qualifications to get on the Dean's List? And I did it 3 times. That's about all you could say for something like that. But if it was getting into an honor society, that might be a more drawn out description. And then finally,
would a scholarship?
Oh, go ahead.
Would getting a scholarship work in the achievements part?
Totally. I would say that's probably an award because they awarded you the scholarship. And yeah, definitely, that's something you might want to put in here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And documents, you need to put in your CV. So you'll put it in, I would suggest making sure it's in PDF form and just add the document, just upload it here. And I would suggest for your CV or your resume, we're looking for a CV here, not a resume. All things are important. So resume, you probably know, is like that 1-page thing, front and back, where it's all towards getting a specific job. That's not what we want for this. That's for getting a job. That's not for going to school. I would suggest you have a CV, which lists, it's an exhaustive list of all your experiences. It's basically a duplicate of what you're entering into here. So just when you're coming up with your experiences, do the CV first. You already wrote all the stuff that needs to be in your application by doing that, and you just do a lot of copying and pasting and then just upload the CV here. All righty. Oops, did I miss something? No. So that was all the stuff for supporting information. Any questions on supporting information?
No.
Alrighty, and then finally we have one last chunk, and this is program materials. And oh, good. I was worried they might actually not have any I could enter in here because of the way the deadlines work. But it looks like we can still sneak a few of them on here. So here you'll see what all the programs are that use Sophas and the ones you want to look for. I would suggest researching this before you put your application together. So I'm just going to, let's see if UC Davis still has theirs available. Doesn't look like they have anything listed right now. So here's the UCLA Master of Public Health Program. I'm just going to grab that one and add, so you can find a little bit of information about it. It'll tell you the deadlines and all that fun stuff.
Is this UCLA or is it USC?
That was really weird sounding. Oh, this one's USC. Yeah, this is USC's program.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were separating it into like regions and it was trying to show like all of Southern California, but.
Yeah, it's specific to the school. I just read it wrong. I just read Southern California and LA. So I didn't even make the connection to USC. So then you just hit the plus sign and it adds this one to your application. And you can add more than one. And here's where it's going to tell you how much you're going to owe for the applications. But you're also going to have to enter some additional information just for that program. So it's listed here now under program materials. Go here and there's multiple tabs. There could be 4 or 5 tabs up here that you have to go through. So this is just your general information. This is some additional supplemental questions they want you to answer. So are you going to dual degree program? You got to know what that is for that program. They're going to ask you these other questions and they're going to say optional personal videos. So they want you to maybe send a video for this one, answering some of these questions. If it's optional, what does that mean? It means do it. Don't leave anything optional undone. I would always enter all of this stuff. And then you have this other tab, documents. So Sounds like they want a statement of purpose and objectives, 2 to 3 pages. They're saying why you're interested in this. So this is beyond what you would have as your personal statement, because it's a 2 to 3 page addressing the following, blah. So you got to add these in there, and there's no optional documents. So what you have to do to complete this section is you have to go through each of the school's programs that you've added and go through each of the tabs.
Is this different than if a school says we have, like I think San Diego State, for example, says do a Sophas application and then we have our own application? Is that linked into here, or
I do not believe that would be linked in here, no.
Okay.
Let's see. You said UC San Diego?
San Diego State, but I think also like UCLA, like I think, or Irvine.
So it looks like San Diego is just not available in here right now because of the fact that we're late in the cycle, current cycle, which means it's past deadlines, which we can't get it entered. Mm-hmm. But my guess is no. If they're saying specifically do a Sophas application and do our own application, that's probably a separate application.
Okay.
I'm going to pick another random one here. Add, take away the filter. Let's add this guy. What does this one have on it? It's Arcadia. Go back to my application, program materials. We got Arcadia here now. And questions. Here they're asking some of the same kinds of things. To which other schools are you applying? So they do ask that sometimes. You do not have to say, again, it doesn't hurt to just say it in documents. So this is a pretty straightforward one. This is your personal statement again. This is your writing sample. If you want to, standardized test scores. Now, every once in a while, you'll see there's some redundancy of what they're asking here versus what you've already entered in the application. And that can be a little annoying, but your answers should be unique for the particular application. So it's kind of annoying, but that is what it is. So then when we're ready, we go submit application. Since I've got 2 programs, this would cost me $190. I do not have to submit them both at the same time. I can, like, once I get one of them that's complete, I can just submit that one and it'll charge me whatever fee it needs for the one. I can click submit all, but I don't have to. And that's the thing with these is you don't have to do all of the programs at once. So you're going to fly to a couple, hold back. Like I think what you were saying earlier, do a couple, hold back, do a couple, because that way your secondaries are probably going to get staggered a little bit. So that is the application. That's how we go through. Oh, and check status, of course. If it's been accepted, reviewed, all that fun stuff. But that's how this application service works. Pretty straightforward. It's pretty much the same old that you did when you were applying to college. So I'll open the floor up for questions.
I don't think I have any. It was just in case it was a weird application, then some would come up. But yeah, it seems pretty straightforward.
Thankfully, Liaison is a pretty easy application service to use. And this is mostly what all applications are. I just did one for the OAT and it was basically the same little spiel I just gave. So yeah, these things are all fairly similar to one another. It's just that all the specifics really come in that program-centric piece. All righty. Well, then I'm going to stop the recording here. If I can figure out how. There we go.